All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Really difficult time slot here, right? I mean, there's beer downstairs, there's food coming. So appreciate you all taking the time today to come spend some with us and learn about what we're talking about here. I'm Dylan Baudet. I'm an offering manager for the Scale Out and Cognitive Infrastructure portfolio within the IBM Power Systems. And I'm very honored today to be joined by Camilla. And you want to introduce yourself before we get started?
Yeah, sure. Camilla Sharp. I am a global business manager for multi-vendor software support. So for those of you that don't know what that means in English, it's essentially when IBM does support on software products that are non-IBM, that basically rolls up into my portfolio. And I kind of do everything from a business management perspective with that. Yeah, and it's a pleasure to be here today with Dylan to talk a little bit about PowerAI, among other things.
Good, thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started, and what we're really going to focus in on is the AI era. And the AI era is today being driven by the vast amounts of data being created. It's exponential increase. And so we continue to see this, and I always use the statistic in 2009, there was more data created in that year than all previous time combined. And that's startling in itself, but what is even more startling is it actually has been doubling to tripling from that year as well. And so when you think about that, what that challenge is that poses to clients today is how do you extract out the valuable insights from this vast seas of data? How do you compute it, contain it, and then drive those very difficult insights that can actually move businesses forward? And in a lot of cases, this is actually moving beyond the CPU-only era. This vast amount of data and the speed of insights required is going to require acceleration, a different way of computing, and we're really focused in on how do we draw a synergistic relationship between a processor and an accelerator to provide a differentiated value in the marketplace. And then what we're seeing is the role of a CIO is changing drastically. It used to be, process automation, you take an application, you scale across an organization. Today it's more about innovation. How do you get that data? How do you take that data and now design a better product? Or recommend the right product at the right time when someone's ready to purchase? And so the CIO has absolute top-line revenue growth numbers that they can actually point to. That is new in this AI era, and it's really changing the IT organizations. And so today, all clients are faced with significant roadblocks on their journey to AI. And it is a journey. They have non-differentiated hardware. The AI era has vastly different workload requirements than what we've ever seen before. And those workload requirements are causing huge challenges and roadblocks around I/O that are not designed for that acceleration I/O. Bottlenecks within the node, and even more importantly, is scaling. How do you take a workload and scale it to very large volumes or very large cluster sizes? And then the AI software, it is not enterprise grade. It is traditionally open source and non-optimized around the differentiated infrastructure. And so if you start to look at what the approach was and has been in the past, it has been an approach of basically a homogeneous approach. And what I mean by that is it's essentially a one-size-fits-all, where you're taking one server, one architecture, and you're trying to do all the different and vast workloads associated with that server, trying to meet those workload requirements. So acceleration, or big data, or data-intense applications. And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't work. It is not efficient. And what you really must have is a modern approach, an approach that leverages servers that are designed for those vastly different workloads, building blocks, if you would, where you can actually take a building block that is designed for acceleration or a building block that is designed for those data stores or those data-intense applications, and then draw strong synergy between those two to really deliver the synergistic value that a client needs today for those speed of insights. And so this is where we really start to talk about our overall strategy today within cognitive systems and power systems. It's a strategy of co-optimization. We start with the hardware, and you can see on the bottom left side of this chart, Power 8, Power 9, and then we're working already for Power 10. But today we're in the Power 9 era. And you really start to design differentiated infrastructure at the heart of it, the processor. You put these advanced I/O interfaces that are built for data movement, where you can actually move 6 times the data to those key value-add accelerators. And you build an entire roadmap on top of this. Now that used to be the strategy in a sense was a hardware-based strategy. But that's only half the story. And you really have to start focusing on now how do you take the software and co-optimize to take advantage of that advanced I/O and those advanced data speeds that are needed. And what you end up getting is this relationship about co-optimization of hardware and software. And we have absolutely realigned our development organizations to focus on this, to deliver that differentiated hardware and to deliver that co-optimized software to deliver the value. And then at the bottom it says it just works. Because we have the largest design team of any company today within IBM. And we actually leverage those designers in the ease of use and how do you actually interact with the software to make data scientists more efficient, to make training a model simpler, to get up and running in the duration of over a quick lunch versus what used to take months. And so we really have focused in on the value that we can provide from a performance perspective, the optimization of the software, and the support of the OpenStack, of the frameworks around that, and ease of use across all of it. And so if you look at the new Power9 processor, which I did bring here, you may have seen these things all over the place on YouTube, or Twitter and other places, people taking their Power9 pictures, right? But this is the Power9 processor here. And this Power9 processor, which is amazing about it, is it's absolutely an engineering marvel, and that it is the first chip, first of all, with PCI Gen 4. Significant addition to the marketplace around doubling the bandwidth to those value-add devices. But when you start to think about the engineering that went into this, it is built off of 14 or 12 nanometer based technology. It has 15 miles of electrical traces within this 1 inch square. It has 8 billion transistors and over 24 billion vias connecting it all together. It is an absolute engineering marvel to fit something that is essentially 1 inch in square, all of that computing capabilities. And when you start to think about what that delivers from a computing capability is twice the performance per core over x86 as an alternative architecture. Up to 10 times the bandwidth to your accelerators. More memory and higher memory bandwidth. These are not small baby steps. These are step function changes that are needed in this era today. And we look at the acceleration aspects. We're into this era of post-CPU, specifically for deep learning. We normalize this chart on PCI Gen 3 based architectures, which is the standard in the past and still is used in all architectures outside of Power. Well, we're the first to introduce PCI Gen 4, twice the bandwidth of that at Gen 3. And we've also now introduced the Power9 with 25 gig link, 10 times that of PCI Gen 3. To say that we're not focused on, we're focused on data movement within the node and within a cluster is 100% accurate. This is where we believe that you have to win to really deliver tremendous performance today in the marketplace. And so what we've actually, just recently on May 8th, which was yesterday, announced 2 new servers and updates to 1 here. And this is where you start to use those same building block aspects of what I spoke about earlier. On the right side, it's our focus on machine learning and deep learning. These are those models that you're going to create to train and to really derive the insights needed. And so it's our accelerated focus. It's the best server for enterprise AI. And what we've introduced is up to 6 GPUs in this server. We've introduced water cooling. And we've also introduced the newest, latest version of the NVIDIA GPU. And we'll talk about PowerAI and some exciting things there we're bringing in as well just here shortly. To marry this and to draw strong synergy and to provide an overall AI platform, we've also now introduced LC922 and 921. Those servers are those data-intense, data lake application-based servers. They are what we term them as the big data crushers, and that they can provide superior performance into these markets. And you put these 2 servers together and you get this synergy, and I've used the example of like peanut butter and jelly or peanut butter chocolate, whatever your favorite combination is, but it's that synergy that really delivers a 1 + 1 = 3 type of relationship. I'll start with AC922 and provide some background. AC922 is designed for this AI era. You have that bandwidth to your accelerators, you have the bandwidth to your I/O, you have memory coherence, which allows you to have the memory size to tackle these models that are in this AI era. We're already deploying this at a scale that has never been seen before, in that it is within Coral, which is part of the national labs of Lawrence Livermore, Argonne, and Oak Ridge. We're deploying a server that is on the order of thousands and thousands of nodes. It will become the world's most powerful supercomputer, and it is basically all focused on AI. And it's basically the first instance of AI being delivered on this scale to deliver 3 exaflops of performance. And then it extends on the heritage of performance that we deliver with Power in our AC922 across AI, HPC, and accelerated databases. Basically, the best server for acceleration in the marketplace. And to speak about Coral a little bit more, why is Coral so interesting? At first, it starts with the Power9 processor. the best processor in the marketplace. You marry that to the best accelerator, which is NVIDIA's V100 GPU, and you do so over the NVLink, second generation, which we've embedded directly into our processor. It's the only processor in the marketplace to do so. You take that combination, you build it into a server, and it is a standard 2U 19-inch rack mount server. It's the #1 most widely deployed server form factor in the world. What you have done, though, is supercharge that form factor with this type of capability and performance. And what we've done is this building block now, if you would, of a server gets replicated in a rack. 18 servers per rack, and racks after racks after racks, hundreds of racks, and you end up getting to Coral, the world's largest supercomputer. You interconnect that all with Mellanox technology, another open power partner over InfiniBand-based networking. Storage through our ESS-based building block, and you end up getting the world's most powerful supercomputer here soon. But that building block is a building block that is available to all, and we have actually been deploying it on individual server basis to hundreds, to thousands, and in this case, many thousands. And some of the key differences here are the architectures. 4 GPU versus 6 GPU. We deliver 150 gigabytes per GPU of bandwidth. That is 6 times the bandwidth what PCIe Gen 3 can provide. What I've also tried to demonstrate with this graphic is taking these GPUs here, the NVIDIA V100s, you have a near direct connection to your system memory. What that important is we have a coherent interface. No longer do we have to go through PCIe protocols to access that system memory. You can actually store those models and the hash tables in our system memory. We have low latency to the GPUs, and you can actually update those from the system memory to your GPU. That is not possible on x86. And actually creates a lot of bottlenecks and contradictory data, what we would call dirty data in alternative architectures. So we're very excited about what this can provide, and this architecture can provide from to a value perspective. And we also have now new commercially is the 6 GPU based server, 6 GPUs in a single 2U based server. We combine this now with PowerAI, and with PowerAI is it's basically a becoming of a distribution for AI frameworks. And what we've done is we've taken those AI frameworks and we've made them enterprise ready. We've optimized them around the I/O and the performance capabilities of Power 9, but it's still the same base open source framework: TensorFlow, Caffe, Chainer, Keras. It doesn't really matter on the framework in a sense. And so now we have the distribution of all these frameworks based on individuals' needs. And then what we've done is you co-optimize these, as we talked about earlier, to get that superior performance and very much focus on tools for ease of use. For example, PowerAI Vision, which is another new announcement we've made, and we co-optimize that with our intelligent video analytics. But I'm not a data scientist in any way. But I can actually become one very simply because of the tools for ease of use that we've put into this software. You simply draw a yellow box over an object of interest. You then put that against various images, and you can now identify every object of interest that you want within that image set. You can build a model from multiple different types of images, and now you can train that or leverage that against incoming data. I have now become a data scientist, and it's very simple to do within PowerAI Vision. If we start to look at some of the performance characteristics that we can deliver between PowerAI and AC922, first, it leverages these industry-leading innovations: large model support, distributed deep learning, and coherence, and then that second generation NVLink. We can deliver nearly 4 times the performance over that of an x86-based equivalent architecture, with the only difference being the processor. That's a significant number from just a base framework perspective. And the analogy I give is it's like sending our kids to school. When you send a kid to school, you want them to learn continuously. But in the case where you can't iterate fast enough on alternative architectures, it's like learning once every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. That's a very slow learning process. You have to start to think about how accurate is my model? How up-to-date is my model? What if I wanted to look at objects of interest, for example, and an object of interest changes? Now I have to wait a month before I can get a model that recognizes that. That is not a scalable process. And so what we've been able to do is allow those fast iteration times and deliver that type of performance so you can train more, you can build more, and ultimately we will know more. So absolute focus on providing significant value. And it's very important that we mention the support with Red Hat and on TensorFlow. Hardening, we're very much focused on delivering value to the enterprise. The enterprise is every vertical, every industrial sector in the marketplace today is looking at AI. healthcare, finance, industrial sectors, doesn't matter. Every one of them is an enterprise looking to put these things into production. And they want to know that they have support and they've got a partner to go through this journey with them. And what we've done is we've taken a really strong step of hardening PowerAI to that it is now ready for those enterprise-based deployments who predominantly rely on Red Hat for their OS. And so now within PowerAI, TensorFlow runs on Red Hat within PowerAI. It speaks volumes to the market and to the value that we bring is from an enterprise perspective. And we're very excited about this new addition and announcement within our offering. And to give you an example of another new announcement we brought is our relationship with Intelligent Video Analytics team within IBM Analytics. You basically take PowerAI Vision to start to identify the objects of interest. You basically train a model, and you get your new AI model. You then have your live video feeds coming in, which you're then going to train against that model. Or you're going to leverage against the trained model for identifying those objects of interest. And the great thing about IVA is they have the GUI already. They have the notifications, the real-time events. These are the type of things that allow simple and ease of use. Now you've built the model behind within PowerAI Vision, and you have a very powerful tool to use in commercial aspects. And I give two examples here. Worker safety. And for this example in construction, are they wearing their hard hat? Are they wearing their vest? How about their glasses? And you can actually start to avoid incidents from happening with this type of tool because it's live video streams, and now you get notified and can provide corrective action. Same thing within retail. How about theft or intelligent shopping? These are other examples where you're looking for the various video feeds that can actually come in and identify various things of interest and get real-time notifications. And it's this very powerful combination of IVA plus PowerAI Vision that enables that to come to fruition. I'll talk just briefly about these data lakes and data stores before I pass it over to Camilla, essentially the big data crushers. What we've introduced here is LC922 and LC921, kind of the right balance for AC922, and really focuses in here on those data-intense and data-rich applications. LC922 delivers 120 terabytes of storage capacity with 2 Power 9 processors to do the compute capability. Has PCI Gen 4 and second generation CAPI up to 40 cores and 176 threads. And we can deliver superior performance in a cost-optimized design in that we're actually a 30% lower list price than that of an HP DL380 equivalent configuration. So you're getting a lot more performance at a list price that is advantaged by over 30%. We also introduced a 1U variant of the server with LC921, 2 Power 9 processors in that 1U, ideal for the dense computing requirements, virtualization, containerization, or inferencing, for example. If we start to look at what these servers can do from a performance perspective, LC922 can deliver twice the price performance for those data-rich applications such as MongoDB, which are absolutely being leveraged today in AI data flows. Spark. Spark is absolutely prevalent across the data flow today for ETL. Basically sending out, treating a cluster as an individual server and sending out those multiple queries to really, queries and tasks to, that are being executed within Spark and the AI data flow. Because we have a thread density advantage, we can actually do more concurrent tasks that is available on alternative architectures, and we can deliver up to 60% more price performance with Spark on LC922 than our competitors. And then very importantly, in this data, in this AI era, is in partnership with Data Science Experience, another IBM application. And flexibility. Flexibility is critically important today of how many users you can put onto a server. And the more users that you can put on that server, the more efficient your organization can run. We can actually put over twice as many users on the same server compared to an alternative architecture. And what is important about that is not only twice the number of users, they have faster speeds of insights. So they're going to be able to do a lot more at a lot faster time and draw those insights that are needed in that marketplace. And so that kind of summarizes up where we're at. And just to kind of close it in here, we're absolutely focused on the AI market. There's a significant opportunity, and clients are desperately needing new innovations. And we focus on differentiated hardware, co-optimizing the software, and providing support across that entire stack. We're seeing the Power 9 processor being leveraged at the largest supercomputer in the world. You'll see public references to Google deploying this server or this processor in their data centers for various workloads. You'll see Tencent, a very large user in China, one of the BATs, leveraging it and setting records in their competition they hold yearly. So we're very excited about what Power9 is bringing to the market, how we're able to leverage this processor to deliver the most advanced AI platform in the marketplace, and how we've made this very simple to use from a software perspective, and that anybody, including myself, can actually start to become a data scientist and move my company's business forward. So with that, I'm very excited and very happy that you took the time to spend with us today. I'll pass it over to Camilla, and she'll talk to you around the other aspects of this presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, Dylan. So first off, out of the two of us, Dylan's the technical one. I am not technical at all. So I'll just preface this because my charts are not as flashy as yours, but I am going to give you guys a little bit different perspective when we're talking about PowerAI and IBM hardware solutions in general and new things that we're bringing to market. And I'm also going to talk a little bit more about the IBM and Red Hat relationship as well, and some of the great things that we're doing together. So one of the things that Dylan touched on with the PowerAI solution is that it really is a solution approach. It's no longer just about purchasing a piece of hardware and, of course, all the amazing things that go on behind the scenes there, but this is really about bringing a solution to a customer that includes not only the support for the so not only the hardware itself, the support for the hardware, the support for the software stack, including open source, but also the ongoing support that we provide customers for the long term to ensure that they're guaranteed the highest return on investment that they're making. So before I talk a little bit more about PowerAI, I just want to back up a little bit and kind of level set in terms of what we're seeing from a technology support services perspective in the marketplace and why we're changing our approach to support for solutions like PowerAI. So first off, if you think about sort of a traditional data center, if you will, and I apologize because this is my rudimentary view of a data center here, but this is what we would have seen, 5, 10 years ago, right? From a hardware infrastructure perspective, very siloed, your typical silos of storage, hardware, and network. And then from a software stack perspective, it's pretty simplistic, right? You've got virtualization layer, your operating system, and then really your only choice was commercial software. Right? So when you think about commercial software, we're talking about, Microsoft, Cisco, sort of proprietary software, if you will, where typically you have to purchase license, subscription, and support, and there's ongoing fees associated with that. So what's happened is over the past, I'd say especially within the past decade, the proliferation of open source software in the enterprise has really exploded. And what that has done is really changed what this software stack looks like. And this is something that our customers today are honestly really struggling with. And what we're trying to do is evolve how we go to market and help our customers kind of demystify and build them solutions to help solve some of these complexities. And part of that is because if you take a look at the same stack now, what's happening is obviously your hardware infrastructure has changed, right? So in addition to your traditional hardware solutions, you obviously have a lot more choices when it comes to software-defined options, especially when clients are looking for data center modernization projects and digital transformation. They're investing in these areas. And then if you start to work your way up the software stack, in addition to your operating system virtualization, you've now got containers in there, and then obviously open source. So with all the open source that's out there in the marketplace, we're seeing more and more development teams obviously leveraging that within their application development, and we're seeing that kind of commercial piece, or I would say proprietary piece, shrink. And then within the open source realm, just to make things even more complex, of course, there's a lot of choices there because you have commercial options, like with Red Hat, for example, and then community versions of software as well. So it looks a little bit complex, but I'm going to make it even more complex than that because from a support lens, what does that mean to a customer? So traditionally, a customer, if you go back to that original model, you would typically have, a support structure for the hardware infrastructure layer, and you'd be dealing with maybe a handful of vendors. But because of the complexity that's out there today, what we're finding is that customers are having to deal with a whole magnitude of various vendors. And what that means is that they have a very fragmented approach to support. Right? So in addition to having to deal with multiple vendors on the hardware layer, so on your infrastructure layer, from a software perspective, you could be utilizing, multiple vendors, because the reality is, as much as we would love every customer to only deploy IBM and Red Hat solutions, That's not what's happening. There's a hybrid, if you will, well, I'll say there's a real mix in terms of what you'll find within an environment, depending on what the customer is leveraging those software applications for. And then in addition to that, you add in the whole open source element. So this is for community versions of open source software where, quite frankly, there isn't a lot of options out there today for open source support for those community versions of software. The other thing that we found that's evolving quite a bit is when we talk about support, what does that mean to a customer? And what are their needs and demands when it comes for support? And that's really changing or evolving as well, because no longer are customers looking for just break-fix options, which is quite frankly what a lot of people think about when they think about technical support, but they're also looking for assistance up front. So how do I make sure that I'm making the right decisions in terms of choosing the right software packages, the interoperability between those, how they work together? So things like when you're taking a look at PowerAI, where you've got the deep learning frameworks, for example, that originally weren't enterprise grade, if you will. So how do you solve that for a customer? Well, PowerAI is a great example of that, and that is our solution approach. So as Dylan talked about, he gave you the hardware layer of that, but then there's also the support layer of that, which includes the deep learning frameworks for Caffe and TensorFlow. So if you think about it, over on the left-hand side, you've got the hardware element. From an operating system standpoint, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and then of course you've got the deep learning frameworks and anything else that you might be running on the machine. So in those particular solutions, TSS has partnered up with Power to ensure that we're bringing a bundled solution to our customers so they do get that single point of contact, if you will, for support. And what I mean by single point of contact is really it's one phone number, one throat to choke if you have an issue. So if you have a problem with the hardware layer or the software layer, any of the deep learning frameworks, you can call one phone number and we're going to help you work that problem through to resolution to make sure that you keep your system up and running and highly available. Okay? So one other thread that I want to talk a little bit about is the community aspect or the open source ecosystem. And then I'll talk a little bit more specifically about some of the things that we're doing with Red Hat. So for me, this is a very exciting part of my job because even though I look at all of our partnerships with vendors that we have for our software offerings, I have a great opportunity to really delve in, if you will, to the open source ecosystem. And what I mean by that is because our customers are using a wide variety of open source software products, we're trying to create solutions that really help streamline support for those customers and give them options so they can take that a streamlined and holistic approach to being able to build a support solution for their infrastructure. And what that means is being able to provide enterprise-class support. So if you look on this chart here, it's your standard enterprise things that you would expect and what is required by customers that are using software in, whether it be mission-critical applications or in production. So, your single source of support, rapid response times, making sure that when you have an issue or an outage that we can be there to help you resolve your issues. But when I talk about the open source ecosystem, it's a little bit broader than just a couple of things. So I alluded to the fact that there's a lot of different flavors of open source. So if we think back to the TSS journey and where we started, out of curiosity, does anyone here know how long IBM and Red Hat have been partners for? Well, I know you know. Anyone that's not an IBM or a Red Hatter know? 18, good guess. So it's actually 20 years. We are celebrating 20 years today. Well, not today, pardon me. This year we're celebrating 20 years of partnership together. But TSS specifically and Red Hat have been working together on support solutions for 18 of those 20 years, which personally I think is phenomenal because we've been there since the start of the journey. And traditionally, we've really focused on the Linux or the operating system layer. And that's where our foundation of the relationship really started. But what I can tell you is that over the past couple years, we've been working very closely with Red Hat and others to expand our portfolio to ensure that we can provide those holistic solutions. And what I mean by that is that in addition to our Linux subscription and support that we offer, we also offer commercial open source support. So earlier this year, we were really excited to announce that we also offer solutions for Red Hat Ceph and Red Hat Gluster now as well, and we can actually build solutions for most of Red Hat's portfolio for our customers. And then in addition to that, we also have an offering that allows us to provide support for community versions of open source software. So this would be for products like the Elk Stack, for example. So things today that customers aren't necessarily buying the commercial versions, but they still require some level of support because they're utilizing it within a production environment. So let me spend just a couple minutes talking a little bit more about IBM and Red Hat. So as I mentioned, 20 years, quite the milestone for us. And by the way, I do invite everyone after the presentation here to please come down to our booth, not just to talk to Dylan and I if you have questions, but we are doing a little mini celebration, if you will, of the 20th anniversary, and we've got some refreshments down there, so it would be great to see you guys down there. But in addition to that, it's funny because whenever I talk to people about IBM and open source, it's not, when you say open source, IBM isn't really top of mind. And one of the things that people don't realize is actually the amount of work that IBM does within the open source realm. So one of the things that I love to talk about is the fact that IBM has 62,000 engineers that are certified to participate in open source. And we've made a ton of investments within open source, various open source communities. In fact, if you kind of look at the timeline of where we've been participating, in addition to obviously the work that we've been doing on Linux for 18 years, we've been involved in some of the most, I'll say, the largest projects or initiatives that are going on today in open source. In fact, today alone, we're involved in over 150 different open source projects that are out there. And in addition, from an investment standpoint, we've invested over $1 billion in various open source technologies. So when we talk about Red Hat specifically and our relationship together, this is a major element. As I mentioned, that was really the foundation of and sort of where we started in our open source journey from a support perspective, but it's continuously evolved from there. And one of the things that I love talking to customers about is the value that we bring when we talk about IBM services and Red Hat. Because it's not very often that you can go to a customer and say, hey, you guys are getting almost like a 2-for-1 here because we have this great partnership and this collaboration, and you're getting the best of both worlds when you purchase Red Hat products through IBM. And what I mean by that is because you can now purchase Red Hat products, so your subscriptions and products that you know and love and have come to rely on, and then we combine that with IBM support that gives you that enterprise, that single point of contact for your entire environment. So it really is the best of both worlds, and it's one of those things that, like I said, I personally love talking to customers about because I truly believe in the power of this partnership and all the great things that we're doing together. So in addition to, I mentioned the operating system stack, we really can provide support solutions for the entire Red Hat stack. And I will just spend a minute on why IBM. So what is the IBM advantage when you're purchasing Red Hat solutions through IBM? First one, single point of contact. I've touched on that one a little bit in terms of single throat to choke. One fact that a lot of people don't know is the depth and breadth of services that we offer. And in fact, IBM Technology Support Services has the ability to support over 30,000 different hardware and software products. That's a pretty staggering number. And because of that, that really does give us a major differentiator when we're talking about that single point of contact approach. The second, world-class enterprise support. So again, this is understanding that IBM Technology Support Services has global reach, global depth and breadth and skills, and allows us to be able to provide enterprise support solutions for international companies across the globe, and we provide support in local language support as well in over 127 different languages. Premium support options. So this is a really cool one because in addition to sort of your standard offering, I think when people think of support, they typically think of your traditional service levels of standard and premium, so 9x5 and 24x7. But one of the things that we offer our customers is the ability to really customize their solutions, and that includes their Red Hat solutions as well. And we have a lot of very specific offerings that are available that really only IBM can provide. So things like U.S. citizen support or data quarantine, those are types of services that are especially important for federal clients, and really only IBM has the ability to offer those types of solutions. And then finally, as I mentioned, open source software support. So this is one, again, where if you're looking for your at your support structure from a holistic perspective and how do you get support for your entire ecosystem, this is where IBM really stands apart from the rest of the crowd, because we can offer support really across your entire stack, whether it be proprietary software, open source software, commercial, or community versions of software. We can provide it all. So little bit different spin on what Dylan talked about, but again, just emphasizing the importance of really the total solution approach, and that's really what we've tried to achieve with PowerAI, is making sure that we're bringing solutions to market that help our customers for the long term and make sure that they're really protecting their investments. So with that, I'll wrap it up. And I actually was asked by marketing, if you came in and you got one of those little black flyers that you have, please go on down to our booth and fill it out for your chance to win. We've got this cool levitating Death Star Bluetooth, so fill that out and you might have an opportunity to win that. And like I said, please come on down to booth 311 right now, and we'll have a little bit of a celebration around 20 years. And just thank you for taking the time and stepping away, because like Dylan said, we know there's free beer down there, so appreciate you guys being here today. Thanks.